Call the meeting to order, please.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's really good.
Sunshine notice. This meeting is called pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. This meeting of February the 24th, 2020 was sent to the Central Record, Burlington County Times, and Courier Post, posted on the bulletin board in Town Hall. It has remained continuously posted as required notices under statute. In addition, a copy of the citizen has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerks. We have roll call. Mr. Barton.
Present.
Ms. McGinnis. Here. Mr. Moore.
Here.
Mr. Sunbury.
Here.
Mayor Brown.
Here.
Thank you.
You got to find the internet. Okay. We're going to open the floor for public comment. It's public comment on agenda items only. When you come forward, you'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record. And we normally have a visual timer, but unfortunately at the moment we're going with a cell phone timer. We digress a little, sorry. It's a hard 3 minutes. Obviously, you can see there's a lot of people here tonight, and I'm assuming most of you would like to speak, and we would like to hear all of you speak. So, like I said, raise your hand. I'll call upon you. Please come to the podium. State your name and address for the record. Once you do that, the time will start. The timer will beep. Great. The timer will beep when your time is up, and at that time we ask you to please sit down. We're not going to answer questions as you speak. We will wait until everyone is finished, and if there's a question that needs to be answered, we will answer it then. Okay? So who would like to go first?
Hi, Lori Cooks, 212 Oakland. First, thank you for serving our community, and thank you to Committeewoman McGinnis for proposing a resolution for tonight. I would like to say that I do not think my rights, along with my family's rights, should be infringed upon. I want our daughter to have the right to compete in a sport that she takes very seriously without worrying that her rights may be taken from her. And may I mention that it is the only sport that I know of that has the best discipline. Our daughter has been a competitive shooter, has been complimented on her safety on and off the range. She has received a letter from Congressman Tom MacArthur congratulating her on her shooting achievements and has been in the Burlington County Times and local papers. If people were more educated on firearms, I don't think we would be here tonight fighting to get the resolution passed. If the Second Amendment is taken away, you can bet all the others are too. Taking away the rights of law-abiding citizens does not change the fact that criminals are still going to commit crimes with firearms. It only puts us, the law-abiding citizens, in a position that we cannot defend ourselves when we need to. Criminals do not go through the system, pay all the fees, and have the background checks that are required, and then go commit the crimes. It just doesn't make sense to keep taking out on us, the law-abiding citizens. Criminals will always exist, no matter what laws are put in place. Therefore, I urge you to please pass the NJ2A sanctuary resolution and help her keep her sport and dreams alive. I thank you for your time.
Amen.
Good evening. I'm Patricia Jones from Wimbledon Way. I have never spoken in a town meeting in all the years I've lived in Tabernacle. I feel so strongly on the issue in Resolution 2020-52 that I came before you tonight. I know everyone here does probably, but for anyone that does not know the resolution, it would create Tabernacle, as I quote, a gun owners sanctuary town. In an era of mass shootings, with many being in schools, this resolution could increase the number of guns on our streets, thus creating dangerous situations. Right now, we're in walking distance of 3 schools. Some people may feel that shooting deaths would not happen here in Tabernacle, but this area already has a history of residents using guns to commit murder. And these are not the criminals, these are just local citizens. A few years ago, a mother murdered her children. Many years ago, a father killed his wife and then looked for his son who was hiding to also kill him. The father tripped, the gun went off, and he shot himself, dying in the hospital. Both the state police and the Medford Farms Emergency Squad were there, so there was evidence of this incident. In your resolution, you state that, and I quote, an unbiased research, unquote, has shown armed citizens are safer. Yet you fail to cite which research, what methodology was used to do the research, and who paid for the research. Other research claim the opposite, using the number killed in mass shootings compared to the number of people saved by armed citizens. The argument states that the resolutions are simply opinions. I say that the resolution is simply opinions when presented without documentation to prove them. There are state and federal laws which maintain individual Second Amendment rights without having more guns on our streets that could kill innocent people intentionally or accidentally. The resolution also states that the Tabernacle Township opposes gun control laws. This should not be the committee's decision. This should be the decision of the citizens of the township. It is the right of the individual citizen to voice their opinion to their federal congressmen, to their state legislatures. Therefore, I strongly request that the committee refuse to pass Resolution 2020-52. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gary Cundiff. I'm from 149 Patty Booker Road. Relatively new resident here, about 9 years. I've spent 40 years in law enforcement, 37 years as a street cop in Cherry Hill, the rest with the State Department in Afghanistan. I'm the FOP president of Cherry Hill Township Police Department, and I've been in a mass shooting in 1973. I've got a couple of opinions and a couple of facts to state. Forgive me for reading, but I got to do this quickly. Politicians like to create answers for problems that don't exist. They do this for votes and for their own agendas. Opinion number 2, Governor Murphy has done this in many ways and in many venues. Now a couple of facts. Criminals make up about 1% of the overall population of the state of New Jersey, and the world for that matter. Violent criminals are a smaller percentage than the 1%. Criminals, by definition, are those that are not going to obey the law, no matter what the law. I know that for a fact, because I've been there and I've done that. Right? 90% of the people in Tabernacle on the face of this earth are good people. They don't need laws. They don't need anyone to tell them to behave, because they do. Most people do that. That's the reason most of us are here today. We're not tribal, fighting with each other. Fact, gun owners in the state of New Jersey all have to pass a background check at their own expense. Criminal background, mental health background check. They are 98.5% less likely to commit a crime than the average citizen. Okay? This is supported by facts gained from the UAR, Uniform Arrest Report, which the state and federal agencies all have to do every time they lock somebody up. An estimate, there are about 1,000 honest gun owners in the state of New Jersey for every criminal, and that's an estimate on my part. Some facts. There are no statistics, facts, to support any bans or restrictions on firearms to prove that they prevent crimes. It just isn't. The 10-year federal gun ban during the Clinton administration, all right, sunsetted after 10 years. The only thing it showed, there was more gun crime during the ban on certain weapons and magazine capacities. Washington, D.C. had a 5-year total ban on firearms in that city. Okay, I've been there, and it's a hellhole. It was a hellhole. Okay, during the restriction on and the gun ban, there was a 400% increase in crime and murder in that city. And I have friends that are cops there. Right? About 99% of guns used in crimes are illegally obtained, not obtained by honest residents and honest citizens. Law enforcement in the state of New Jersey has never been consulted on any of the gun and firearm initiatives by Governor Florio, McGreevey, Corzine, or Murphy.
I'm sorry, your time's up. Thank you, though. Yes, absolutely. We just want to limit it because.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
Wait,
I can actually just have the clerk make copies and give it back to you.
I think you have comments.
Okay, so then we're
Or
good.
similar. All right, the fact as far as the,
No, I meant you can give it to us because the document.
Make it part of the record.
Right, make it part of the record because I need to let other people speak.
okay,
I'm sorry, I just had to.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your service. My name is Alan Rose, long-term resident here, I guess, 35 years. And I just want to discuss briefly a couple of my thoughts here. I do support the Second Amendment in a very big way. It took me about 9 months to get a gun permit in the state of New Jersey. It's so restricted in the state of New Jersey, and with the new governor and the DOJ, I fear it's going to even get worse. So it took me about 9 months, and every once in a while, I haven't shot a gun in a year, but every once in a while I go out, and I worry so much about going to the range in Fort Dix, or taking one out in the woods or something like that, because you know, you got to have your ammunition here and you have to have your gun here, and you know, you never know, and you could get yourself in a real serious crime. So I always encourage, loosen up the laws a little bit. I have friends that bought guns in Pennsylvania, and within, they bought a gun almost the same day, second day. Within less than a week, they had a concealed carry permit, and I was told a couple years back that you have to be a jeweler, a banker. It's incredibly hard to get a concealed carry. I mean, this isn't the wild, wild west, but as I get older, I feel a little fear. I mean, I go out in the middle of the pine lands. You never know what's going to happen. I'm not really, probably don't have the heart. I don't barely have the heart to kill a squirrel these days. But, you know, if you need protection, you need protection. And when you see 10 guys out in the pine lands and they start to approach you, and they approach you and your wife, you don't know exactly what's going to happen. And I really, like I said, I'd have a hard time killing a squirrel. But so the long and the short is, I do encourage any kind of protection for the Second Amendment rights. I feel that would be a good way to go. All right, so that's it. All right.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. First of all, I want to commend Nancy McGinnis, Chair, Councilperson, for putting this forward. First, I wish to speak about the Second Amendment Sanctuary Resolution, and I have a handout that I've given to LaShawn.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Cliff Toy, 29 Acorn Drive, in Tabernacle. So I have a handout that I've given to LaShawn, and I'm going to just go through it quickly so the audience knows what I've brought. There are two or three counties now that have signed on as sanctuary counties in New Jersey with their resolutions. There are about 20 municipalities so far. Tabernacle is in the works, as is Hainesport. I was at the recent Hainesport one. I actually came up with a little bit of a button, which you'll see more of in the near future, probably a t-shirt, and it simply says, "Stop the brutal infringement. The Second Amendment matters." There's a map of the areas that are currently in New Jersey. The green zones are sanctuary areas. My fingers don't work. Nationally, it's a big program. It's happened all over the country. There are a lot of sanctuary areas within the country, most notably, let's see, Nevada, and, well, lots of places. I've gotten a lot of different places where we have the resolution from, I've got a lot of footnotes here for you guys to look at. And I should mention that I happen to be a Purple Heart veteran of Vietnam, proudly so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody in this room that served in the military, I don't care what branch it was, whether it was as an officer or as an enlisted person, they took an oath. And I took that oath when I enlisted. And one of the things that's common amongst all these oaths is, I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We might have some domestic enemies in our midst these days, just saying. And I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. And it goes on a little bit, but here's the point. The Constitution means what it says. I believe it was written to mean what it says, and I believe we should observe it today in that manner. I should also mention that the Bill of Rights, of which there are 10.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doug Cutts, 212 Oak Lane. First, thanks for serving on this committee. I'd especially like to thank Nancy McGinnis. for proposing this resolution. It may just be a symbolic gesture at the moment, but it's a gesture that's becoming a movement across the state that I believe we all can support. Democrat, Republican, the Constitution is pretty cut and clear. Most people do not know about this movement. It just started a few months ago, and it's growing quickly through the state. My numbers are up to now 30 towns and 5 counties that have adopted the resolution. I feel it's time we take a stand against the governor and his anti-Second Amendment agenda that discriminates against all New Jersey residents, and especially our daughter, for participating in the sport that she loves so much. So with that, I urge you tonight to vote for and support this resolution. Thank you. List of the towns, counties, if you would like them.
Sure. Thank you.
Emily Cutts, 212 Oak Lane. I first want to thank you for taking the time to serve our community on the Township Committee. I attend Seneca High School, perform on the gymnastics team, and sing the national anthem at sporting events. I also happen to be a hunter and an accomplished competitive shooter. I simply want to thank you, and especially Committeewoman McGinnis tonight, for proposing this resolution and supporting me at the local level in the sport that I hold so dearly to my heart. Thank you for your time and have a great evening. May I approach the bench to give you some information?
Hello, I'm Teresa Einacker from 18 Lake Road. I want to thank you for serving on our committee, and also thanks to Mrs. McGinnis for sponsoring the Second Amendment Sanctuary Resolution. I'm a resident here in town, and I'm actually the Volunteer Communications Director for the Coalition of New Jersey Firearm Owners. I'm also the New Jersey delegate to the DC Project, which is an all-women's, nonpartisan project. One woman from every state goes to Washington, D.C. to reveal the face of the Second Amendment to our congressmen and senators. So I'm your delegate, and I live in town, so I just wanted to let you know where I'm coming from. I ask you to please support the resolution. Second Amendment rights are civil rights, and Second Amendment rights are also women's rights. And I really do take that extremely, to heart. It is a woman's right. I see it that way. We acknowledge the resolution doesn't change federal law, it doesn't change state law, but it's nice to not be treated like a criminal for a change. Last year we had to turn in or divest ourselves one way or another of 15-round magazines. The rest of the country already has 30-round magazines as standard. We were already at reduced 15-round magazines. I bought them lawfully with background checks and a firearms ID card, and then another point of sale NICS check. And I had to do something with my 15-round mags. Can't keep them in my house. Why? Because the law changed. So I had to send them to Pennsylvania for safekeeping. I am not a criminal, and no one in here is a criminal. Okay, we're background checked. We take our rights very seriously, and it's just nice to be treated with a little bit of respect, to distinguish and not conflate lawful gun owners with criminals. So I just want to thank you for your support, and I hope that you vote yes for the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. My name is Nancy Scullion, 7 Lumberton Road, Hainsport, New Jersey. I support passing this resolution for your township to become a Second Amendment township. This resolution would bring attention to local government that law-abiding citizens of New Jersey are concerned with legislation being passed in Trenton. The current administration has proven to be anti-Second Amendment. It sends a clear message to Trenton and the current legislature: we the people will not tolerate more gun control laws being passed under the false narrative of public safety. This was the original intent of the New Jersey permit scheme. The resolution brings firearms owners together for a common goal. Opens up dialogue to better inform the public that firearms are safe. This resolution is completely nonpartisan. Both Democrats and Republican firearm owners can agree. Our main goal is to stop the flood of Second Amendment infringements through public awareness and self-governance. Every law-abiding firearm owner must be 18 years of age to own a long gun and 21 years of age to own a handgun. Every firearm owner must apply for New Jersey firearms purchaser ID. Application process includes an extensive background check, a mental health check, and references. Once completed, we are considered exempt. We also, by New Jersey state permit laws, are considered a non-risk to public safety and are allowed to exercise our Second Amendment rights by exception. In the interest of public safety, in New Jersey there are approximately 33,000 carry permits. 1,500 of those permits are speculated to be civilian permits. The others are retired law enforcement. Also, 100 of homicides and armed robberies occur by non-fit element of the public criminal. Yet the New Jersey legislature continues to present gun control laws on the narrative of public safety. By passing more gun control laws, the legislature is actually making people less safe with restrictions. Please support the preservation of the Second Amendment of the Constitution because our republic is at risk due to emotional reaction and not evidence-based. It is well worth the paper and your time at this meeting to confirm that this township will abide by the Second Amendment rights as sworn. Thank you.
Comments on agenda items? Wait.
No, it's okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you. Amanda Williams, 6 Sheriff Court. I don't want any of my comments to be construed as being pro-Murphy or against the lawful and law-abiding gun owners, which I'm sure everyone in this room is. I'm concerned still for the safety of my kids, and in particular respect to this resolution. So this is an article from NPR, October 20th, 2019. I'm just going to read the first two paragraphs. The percent of Americans who favor stricter gun laws is on the rise, though significant partisan divisions persist. A Pew Research Center survey conducted in September found that 60% of Americans say gun laws should be tougher, up from 57% last year and 52% in 2017. The study released this week indicates that while a solid majority favor stricter gun laws, support remains split down party lines. 86% of Democrats and Democrat-leaning independents said gun laws should be stricter than they are today, compared with 31% of their Republican counterparts. Yet there are Republicans that agree laws should be stricter. I realize that in New Jersey, laws are already very strict. Those are just the facts that I've presented. I'm not going to stand here and advocate that Tabernacle go past additional gun safety legislation, but I also don't think that, considering vast public support for stricter gun safety laws, that the committee should go in the opposite direction of what public opinion is, majority public opinion. From a personal perspective, I am opposed to this resolution, but more importantly, I think the town should vote against it because it's a mistake to drag national politics down to our local level. We should be focusing on local issues that we can affect. This resolution, if passed, it won't help bring businesses or residents to this town, two things that we badly need. In fact, it will probably put off both residents and new businesses. A vote in favor of this resolution would figuratively be shooting ourselves in the foot. I really appreciated a few years ago when I think it was Mayor Lee changed the ordinance to allow landowners like me to have chickens. I hadn't gotten them yet, but I finally ordered them. I'm getting them this summer. And what else is more important to me at a local level is the school. The school has been requesting a meeting with the town for months, and to my knowledge, that has yet to happen. Those are the kinds of local issues we look to our elected officials to action. Thank you. Thank you.
Named Jim Jones, 16 Wimbledon Way. Been a resident of the town now for about 40-plus years. And I'll tell you right out front, I'm not in favor of this resolution. First of all, there was a reference to Federalist 28. 28 was written before the Second Amendment, well before it, several years. And I think there's been some cherry picking on using that as a reference. We're talking about science, unbiased surveys and studies and all this other garbage. I want to tell you something about statistics, and I'll tell you that as an electrical engineer. You can make them do any damn thing you want to. I'm not kidding about that. And it also depends on who the source was. There were people I trusted, people I didn't trust. They talk about evidence-based. The gentleman here presented some interesting numbers I hadn't been aware of.
Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones.
I'm sorry. Yeah, they were interesting, and I believe it. However, I'm also personally aware of at least two incidents where guns were used inappropriately. When the woman shot her sons, 3 sons, one of them survived. When the man was after his wife with a shotgun, she was killed in the basement after the man had killed the woman in Cherry Hill. He was looking for his son. He came down the stairs and he blew his chin away. And I'm going to tell you, as a first responder, I will never forget the sound of the pieces of him falling down from the ceiling. They were good law-abiding citizens, apparently. At least he had a long gun, which is a whole lot easier to get than a handgun. Now, I have an FID, but I've never owned a one. Although I think my wife now has a Civil War Black Power gun that she's going to give to our son. My basic problem with this resolution is that there are issues that this township needs to address. And I understand the feelings of most of these people in the room. I'm not going to argue with them too much. But I don't think it's appropriate for this township, in spite of the other townships and counties that approved the resolutions, to create a gun town sanctuary that says, I can carry, I can buy. I think it's just inappropriate for this committee to do that. And I'm going to say something else that's probably going to irritate a lot of people. This resolution is really interesting, but I'm going to tell you what it looks like to me is a cut and paste from a minority publication. And I don't think there are too many people that would argue against that. It's literally 5 words. As I tell you, I don't think the township should do it. If people want to do it at the damn ballot box. That's what it's there for. If they kind of like that decision that's made here, they can take care of that at the ballot box too, except for Lady Painesville. Unless she's something about not accusing you of doing anything wrong.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Megan Jones, Commissioner Court. I thought September 11th was going to be the worst day of my teaching career until November of 2014. When I got pulled out of my classroom by my principal and told that I had to prepare myself to tell my students that one of their teammates and friends had been killed by their mother. My colleagues at OMS, Seneca, and TES unfortunately had the same heavy-hearted opportunity that we wish we never had, to tell children that their friends had been taken by their mother. I respect my colleagues, my friends, and my coworkers, my neighbors who hunt for food, who are responsible gun owners. But part of this resolution says we're anti-red flag laws. The research on this is very clear. People with mental illness, people with possibilities of suicide, with dementia, are far more likely to take their own lives or the lives of someone else. And without precautions to protect the community from changes, suicide occurs at much higher rates. Research from Connecticut, and this is from Psychiatric Services Journal, found that red flag laws in Connecticut decreased suicides by 14%, Indiana by 7.5%. Jeffrey Swanson, professor of psychiatry from Duke University, has done extensive research on this, stated, when researchers tracked people who were subject to confiscation orders by due process found that they were more than 30 times more likely to commit suicide than the average person. 30 times more likely. And often those suicides can be correlated with them taking out family and loved ones. I respect the Second Amendment, but nobody should be so foolish as to believe that people with dementia should be having access to firearms. That our psychological and mental stability may change over the course of our lifetimes. And in case of a situation where there is someone saying there is a need, and law enforcement and the courts come in and say there is a need for right now, for a period of time, which is what the New Jersey Red Flag Law does, to withhold your right to a firearm for your protection and those around you. That's right to life. Those 3 children should have grown up. They should have. And as a mother, there is nothing more terrifying to me than the loss of my child. As parents, as I know most of you are, please understand, I respect the Second Amendment, but this doesn't change the law. Let's not pretend that lives aren't in the balance here. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Robert Stieglin, 37 Avenue A in town, Tabernacle. I've lived in town for 30 years. I know some of the people on the dais here. Served 27 years in the military, retired. It's a shame that this issue of guns has become a political issue, because really it's a civil rights issue. Somebody mentioned it earlier, and it has become politicized. It never should have gotten this far. And it actually equal a number of, well, I wouldn't say equal, probably the majority of the Republicans are in favor of some form of, let me rephrase that. Democrats favor some sort of gun control as opposed to Republicans. But where I was going with this was, it's a shame that when I raised my hand and took my oath, and I swore I would uphold the Constitution of the United States, that the governor, when he took his oath, he has failed to uphold his.
Sean Colton, 438 Medford Lakes Road. I'd like to start by saying, of course, I support this resolution, but most importantly, I think there are some people in this crowd that are forgetting what the Second Amendment is. Second Amendment wasn't created for hunting, wasn't created for anything like that. It was created to defend ourselves from a tyrannical government. That's what this township is trying to bring to us, is the ability to defend ourselves in case such horrible tragedy would come to us, where we would have to defend ourselves from our own government, which I do believe is not far from our future. And furthermore, when I hear people talk about how this town shouldn't be one to be Second Amendment pro, I can tell you right now, the majority of these people are definitely pro Second Amendment here. The majority of these people here are definitely here as law-abiding citizens. Everyone here, most likely, is a law-abiding citizen. Everyone who has a gun in this town, maybe not everyone, but I'm going to say the majority of every person in this town has a gun for the right reason. And if somebody has a gun, if somebody doesn't have a gun, if they have a gun, if they're going to do something bad, they're going to do it no matter what. That's all there is to say about the matter. The truth of it is, we're a blue-collar farm town, and this town belongs with the Second Amendment. This is who most of us are. Most of us are hunters. Most of us are farmers. There are many farmers here who wouldn't be able to protect their crop without their guns, but that is not why we have our guns. We have our guns to protect ourselves from the government, because our founding fathers knew that the human code, or whatever you want to call it, gets destroyed with power. And with power, they want to go after your rights, and that's what they will do. This is to protect our rights as Americans. This is for us to be able to defend ourselves. not from, just from each other, not just from, that is an issue, but what's more of the issue truly is what our government could become, and we know it can happen at any time. Thank you.
Patrick, 17 Stevens Lane. Initially this evening I had no intention to get up and speak, but after listening to so many comments, pro and con, there seems to be some confusion about the process that a citizen goes through to hunt, to own a firearm, and to be legal. My life has been in Tabernacle entirely. I started hunting when I was a boy, which started with, at age 11, taking a firearm safety course. Then I was approved to get a hunting license. Later on, once I was 18, in order to buy a firearm, I had to take the firearms identification test and the background check. That included fingerprints with the federal government, references, mental health check, all these different things. Okay, so that happened. I got my card, okay. Then, every permit that I wanted to buy, anytime I wanted to buy another gun, there was another background check. This is not a one and done. It's every time you go to buy a gun, there's another next check. You don't just walk in and buy one. Now,
Can you address?
direct your comments to that. Thank you. I have purchased a firearm in Pennsylvania at Cabela's. Guess what? They're required to hold us to the exact same standards as a New Jersey gun dealer. There's no difference. Because we are a New Jersey resident, we are subject to the same laws. Don't know if everybody knows that. If you go to buy a pistol, it's a permit for that pistol. You're allowed one pistol a month. It has taken me as much as 5 months to get a pistol permit. They're dragging their feet and trending. You get your permit, then you have 90 days to use this permit, and then the permit's exempt. If you're smart and you get lucky, you can go to the state police and get an extension on that permit. But it's a short extension, and you do have to use it or lose it. All the different hunting. There's a rifle test for muzzleloader. There's the archery test. There's the shotgun test that every hunter has to pass. It's not the Wild West. Everybody has to maintain being legal first off and being responsible. If you're not, it soon ends. So I just want to thank everybody.
Ray McCarty, 368 Tuckerton Road. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on Resolution 2020-52. I hope you adopt it. At first blush, it seems silly to make a resolution to affirm what has been a basic right for hundreds of years. On the other hand, it is criminal for state and local governments to pass sanctuary laws which violate long-standing federal drug and immigration laws. I applaud their championing of this right, the Second Amendment right, when freedom for many people merely means free stuff and a nanny state to take care of them. Many people believe that rights are granted by governments, but this is not the case for those enumerated in the Bill of Rights of the U.S. Constitution. These are basic rights of natural law with which we are born, God-given, if you will. These basic rights were so obvious and well accepted that some of the founders feared that the Bill of Rights would imply they were granted by the government rather than merely acknowledging them as a matter of fact. While I support IDs and background checks for lawful gun ownership, New Jersey laws are so complex they can ensnare responsible, law-abiding people in meaningless details. For example, you cannot stop for a cup of coffee while you're going to or from a range. There are differing opinions about the magazines that you're transporting, whether they can be loaded or not, even though they are stored separately from the gun they fit. For practical purposes, responsible, law-abiding people do not have the right to carry arms in New Jersey. But as it is, only lawless criminals bear arms in New Jersey, and we are powerless against them. Now we are faced with the dilemma of the red flag laws. It's too easy for someone to claim another is a danger to themselves or others. It's a great way to get even with a neighbor or a relative we don't like. It's a card to play during a bitter divorce. It's also a way for medical professionals and others in positions of authority to further personal beliefs and political agendas. There seems to be no consequence for making such false charges. Where's the due process? This smacks of East Germany, when people were ratting each other out to stay in government's good grace. Once again, thank you for your time and your consideration and your efforts to make a stand for a fundamental right. Let freedom reign.
Olivia Bucks, 114 Pad Drive in Columbus. Again, thank you for being here tonight and for representing us as New Jersey, as in Tabernacle too. Like already previously stated, I'm a young citizen of Springfield, New Jersey. I myself am someone who shoots and would really like to do so. I've been in New Jersey all my life, and it's a shame to see that my generation has to go through so much to be able to own a gun, something that my born rights are basically taken away from me, and I don't believe that it's fair. People come to America who are immigrating from America come to the States to have these rights, and I just don't think that it's fair. Basically what I'm here tonight to say is that I'm tired of being afraid to own a gun or tell someone that I own a gun, because people are going to look at me weird. I don't understand why not just Tabernacle, not just New Jersey, but the whole United States of America is telling the future generation, my generation, that I can't have my own Second Amendment right. It's not even like the 10th or anything, it's the second, it's 1, 2, it's second. But please, I want New Jersey to be the shot heard around the world, to be the ones that can start this revolution and gain back our rights that we've lost. And so it's just the rights that I was given when I was born. All of you, everyone here was given all the same rights that I have when they came to this country, when they were born in this country. Wherever you guys are from, wherever you came from, you were born, you had all these rights. And I know I can't be the one to change your minds, but I'd like to. I'm hoping you guys can listen to us and to me and the fellow citizens of Tabernacle, New Jersey, and can support this resolution. So thank you.
Good evening, my name is Brian Anderson. I live at 50 Stevens Lane. I've been in Tabernacle over 30 years. Hunted since I was a teenager. And two things in my mind regarding this issue is, number one, when we have people that suggest that, there's local issues that we should be involved with that are more important, there cannot be anything that is more local than addressing this issue, okay? Because it's not, in my mind, a federal issue, it's not a state issue, it's not a county issue, it's not a township issue. Local to me is literally 50 Stevens Lane. For me to have a gun to protect myself. If somebody comes in to my house to harm my wife or myself, I either have a gun to protect myself and my wife, okay? Because by the time a federal marshal gets here from Washington DC, or some state policeman from up at the Capitol, or even the state police who are down the road from us here, okay, get to my house, or as somebody mentioned, a first responder, it's already too late. My wife or myself are either injured or dead. So where's the restitution of that? It just makes no sense. I have done nothing wrong. Most people who live in this township have never done anything wrong. They've owned their guns for years, decades, a lifetime. And for us not to be able to protect ourselves and say that we have to wait for a responder to hopefully find us before we're dead and maybe revive us is insane. The other factor that someone mentioned is the government, protection against the government. And, you know, I don't want to be off the rails, but looking at the way our politics are going right now, I can't say it'll be tomorrow, I can't say it'll be next year, but it seems like that progression is going towards them taking away your guns. And in my mind, if and when that day comes, and they are already gone, even if it starts with this type of rifle, that type of handgun, and then the next after the next, okay? When that day comes when there is no more guns that are available to you, it's already over. You will have no recourse whatsoever. The federal government will literally do whatever they want to do to you, and that's why we were given that right.
Good evening. Kevin Ellicott, 153 Nantucket Trail, Metro Lakes, New Jersey. First, I want to thank everybody up here and in the audience. You really have shown what civility should look like. Right? This is a hard-fought issue on both sides, and I think everybody that's come up here tonight and spoke with, again, civility and dignity to everybody up here, and I want to thank them for that. And the reason I talk about that is, one of the reasons that I'm here tonight is I'm moving, and I might be moving to Tabernacle, I don't know at this point. But when I heard about this issue being brought before you, I thought it was important to do a little investigation about who Tabernacle is. I grew up in this area, and I know a lot of the residents, but to really get a sense of the town, I don't think that you can get that without coming to some of these town meetings. So, you know, I want to thank you for that. The Second Amendment has been slowly eroded in the state of New Jersey over the last 30 plus years. Doing very slowly, so nobody notices. There's a Marine that I served with that was looking at possibly serving 5 years in federal prison for having a 30-round magazine. He did not have a gun. He did not own a gun. He was a Marine. He went over, he served in Iraq honorably, he came back. He had a 30-round magazine left over that the armory would not take, and he had nothing, he had no place to, so he put it in with his gear. All right? He had a domestic dispute. They found that 30-round magazine, which is illegal, and he was arrested. And he's still, to some degree, fighting this, but he was looking at serving up to 5 years in federal prison for serving our country. Okay, very recently, a gentleman and his son were going hunting, and they were called a red flag. A neighbor called a red flag against them, and they were investigating on their way to go hunting. Okay, so they had their entire day ruined. You know, a father and son time together, doing what's constitutionally their right to go hunting. Actually, I'm sorry, they were going to the range. They weren't able to do that because red flag laws are ripe for fraud and abuse. And that's exactly what happened. A neighbor dispute ended up in somebody almost getting arrested and a day lost. But again, I just want to take my time. Thank you again. I too served. I spent 24 years in the Marine Corps, Purple Heart recipient. I've seen firsthand. When I helped exhume the massive graves in Srebrenica, Bosnia, what a tyrannical government can do to their people when they murdered over 2,000 unarmed civilians.
Here, here.
Thank you.
There you go.
My name's Amanda O'Hara, I'm from 10 Oak Lane. I wasn't going to speak tonight, I actually just came for support of this resolution. So I'll just take a couple quick minutes. I am a legal gun owner. I have shot many of guns. I've had a gun in my hand since I've been 5. I grew up in Virginia. I moved to Philadelphia. And at 18 years old, I had a gentleman in a four-way stop. I stopped to let him cross, and he attempted to pull me out the vehicle. And when I wouldn't get out the vehicle, he attempted to climb in my vehicle. Okay? I was frightened, to say the least. And I decided from that moment I was going to exercise my Second Amendment right. I was going to protect me and anyone else around me that I possibly could. We know that there are bad people. We know that they shoot guns, and we know that they're not going to follow these laws. It's up to us legal gun owners to protect the people against these other people. We're not going to abide these laws. These laws aren't going to stop criminals. This guy could have hopped in my car. I may not be here today. I may not have my 2 little ones. I hit the gas, and I almost ran over him. And he's lucky I didn't back up, because I would kill him. But I wish I would have had the ability to protect myself. And the very next day, and I went and got my legal rights to carry. I went to Philadelphia. It was a comfort, a peace for me to know that nobody would ever do that to me again without me being able to protect myself as a woman. And I agree with you. It is not only a civil right, it is a woman's right to protect themselves. You take away the Second Amendment right, you take that away from every woman. Take it away from every man who has a right to defend himself, or his wife and him when he's walking through the woods. Please support this resolution. Give us the ability to protect ourselves. No one else is going to do it quicker than we can if we need to. And that includes protecting you in a situation where you may not have the ability to protect yourself if it ever comes down to it. So please support this resolution. Thank you.
Good evening. Mark Lemire, 32 Washington Way. 9/11. We all remember 9/11, unfortunately. Shortly after 9/11, when 9/11 occurred, I had a 2-year-old, a 9-year-old, and 11-year-old. Shortly after that, and everybody remembers the chaos on that day, where your loved ones were, how you would get a hold of them, what would you do if this happened again. I made a decision to go out. Shortly thereafter, I get my 2 older kids' cell phones, at 11 and 13, or 11 and 9. What a crazy thing, you buy a kid's cell phone. But I remember the chaos, and I said to myself, boy, what can I do to make sure that if this happens again, I'll have a better chance of finding these kids, to make them safe. So I did. Luckily, it didn't occur again, and I really didn't have to do that, but I did it as a precautionary effort. In 2007, there was a home invasion in Connecticut, and I'm sure everybody remembers that as horrific as it was. It was William Penn. 2 criminals broke into his house, raped and murdered his children, set them on fire. He was defenseless to that. Shortly thereafter, I bought my very first gun. I didn't grow up with guns. I grew up in Yonkers, New York, pretty busy town. I did it as a precaution. I did it because I said to myself, what do I do if this occurs here? What precautions can I take if something should happen? I may not be able to get the gun. I may be incapacitated, but at least I'll have a little bit of a fighting chance if it occurred to my family. So I did. I went through all the process. Everybody outlined it here. It's a very exhaustive process. I think it's a great process. I mean, it's cumbersome. I agree. There's times I wish it weren't. But I went through it. I did all the background checks, got the fingerprinting, got everything done legally. I bought my first gun with the advice of a very, very esteemed gun owner. I went and joined a range where safety is first, it's paramount. And I go down there and I practice with that gun. And safety is first. And it's hard for me to even express how much effort every gun owner I've ever met puts safety as the top of the list. What was interesting is here I did everything right, and luckily I haven't needed the gun to defend myself or my family, which is obviously I'm very grateful for. What's interesting is last year, with a swipe of a pen in Trenton, I became a felon, or a potential felon, because I had a magazine that held more than 10 rounds. I bought it legally, I did everything right, I practiced well, I had it for the right reasons, and for no fault of my own, with a swipe of a pen and trend, somebody basically said, if you don't surrender this, you are a felon. You are a criminal. I did nothing wrong. I've been thinking about that, because again, trying to do the right thing for the right reasons, preparing myself, doing everything legally, all for every safety reason. All of a sudden, me, Mr. Do Everything Right, more or less. But all of a sudden, with a swipe of a pen, I was putting myself in jeopardy. Now, my son is a gun owner as well. He wrenched them out of my hands and made sure I got them addressed. But long story short, another swipe of the pen, and we'll find ourselves in the same situation. Thank you very much.
Fran Brooks, Moores Meadow Road. At the outset, I just have to say that I support gun rights and gun safety. In fact, we have people who hunt our property. So what I have to say tonight has nothing to do with, or little to do with how I feel specifically about guns. It has more to do with what I think about the resolution per se. The constitutional right to bear arms and the regulation of that right are very complex issues. People have spent, organizations, the NRA, many individuals have spent years studying these complex issues and attempting to find solutions to them. What I'd like to focus on are a couple of the provisions in the resolution. One is, which was spoken about earlier, has to do with the 7th whereas clause, which talks about unbiased research. The problem with using such a vacuous term as unbiased is that nobody really knows on either side of the issue what you're referring to. It would be helpful to use much clearer terms than unbiased research, because no one knows the rationale, the basis, the source, or any of the data that are being referred to in that provision. The other provision that bothers me, or at least I have questions about, is the 12th whereas that refers to gun control laws that are not evidence-based. In a large part, in truth, this is due to the Dickey Amendment, which severely limited data collection for decades. So if you're going to talk about something that's non-evidence-based, you only have to look at the history of why there isn't any evidence. And it goes back to Senator Dickey, who passed through an omnibus law, a budget law, making it impossible for the federal government to collect data. Wouldn't it be better for the township to call for evidence-based research that actually informs policy and legislation? The other question that's raised in my mind, and this goes to you, Ms. McGinnis, because I have to applaud you for bringing up some new issues. What are the specific problems in Tabernacle that you think are being addressed by this resolution? I mean, we have not, my husband and I have not encountered those problems with the hunters who we allow on our property. So one of the questions that it raises for us, for me, is what problems are you trying to address in Tabernacle per se? The committee doesn't have the authority to change the gun laws. I will give this to you to finish through. You got it? Okay, good.
Brooks, Moores Meadow Road. This committee doesn't have the authority to change gun laws. The resolution is not binding. All of the legitimate issues that have been raised today, the complexity of New Jersey's laws, having or not having an oversized magazine, not being able to shoot in competitions, all those legitimate issues, none of them are addressed by this resolution. So you're not creating any kind of sanctuary here. You don't have the authority to create a sanctuary. Think about that. By labeling Tabernacle as a sanctuary township, you're creating a false perception that gun owners have special protections or special rights of some kind. They don't. It's bad policy to pass a resolution that suggests that they do, and it shouldn't be done. The 12th whereas also criticizes red flag laws as having nothing to do with teaching or promoting the lawful use of firearms. I don't know why you link it. Red flag laws pertain to a different but equally important problem, as has been said before. In New Jersey, that's called the Extreme Risk Protective Order Act. It gives family members or law enforcement officers the ability to petition a judge to temporarily remove firearms from someone who they believe poses an imminent danger to themselves or others. The law passed by a large majority. It was bipartisan and had strong support from law enforcement. Firearms in the possession of people who pose an imminent danger is a serious matter. Over half the nation's 47,173 suicides involved a firearm. That's 2017 data. And the Justice Department report that 60% of all adult firearm deaths are by suicide. What experience do you have to get involved in that? Really? What's your experience in trying to weigh in on the issue of suicide by a firearm caused by someone who most likely is in imminent danger? Next question. How do you reconcile this resolution with Supreme Court's decision in D.C. versus Heller? Heller affirmed an individual's right to keep and bear arms for traditional and lawful purposes. Justice Scalia, a very, very conservative judge, wrote the majority opinion. He said, quote, "Like most rights, the right secured by the Second Amendment is not unlimited. It's not a right to keep and carry any weapon whatsoever, in any manner whatsoever, or for whatever purpose." He also wrote, "Nothing in our opinion should be taken to cast doubt on the long-standing prohibitions on the possession of firearms by felons and the mentally ill." That's the red flag issue. This is a serious issue. The resolution, unfortunately, is an empty, sloppy resolution. Civility, people.
Yes, please.
John Mountain, 30 Wood Road. I'd just like to thank this town. It's a beautiful town to live in. And all the services that I'm able to have, and anytime I ran into the township, or even I put a shed up and I didn't know I was just replacing it, I didn't, I got fined and I ran down to the gentleman took care of me. And so I just want to commend this town for, I raised 3 children here, and I'm thankful to live in this town. And, a lot of things have been said, and I'm supportive of this amendment, because I would like to know that the town that I live in would help me as a resident support the rights that we were born with. And so it's keep it short. Thank you again, and I just appreciate if you guys would consider the fact that we do have rights, and if the town don't stand up for us, we will.
My name is Mark Murdy, 261 Port Creek Road, Hainesport, New Jersey. I've been coming through Tabernacle probably for about 10 years. My son's an Eagle Scout. We used to go out to Pine Tree out here. They shoot weapons out there. Under extreme safety, everybody goes and does what they do there. According to some of the laws that they're going, it looks like they might be taking it away, which is really bad, because we need gun safety in the schools. I am old enough to have been going to school and had my shotgun in the back of my pickup truck
doors unlocked, nobody bothered anything. It's not a problem with the guns, it's a problem with the heart. I'm sorry about that. The gun can sit here. I carry a pocket knife, I'm sure a lot of people do. It looks terrible, it's very sharp, it can cut people. It hasn't cut anybody. Well, except me, I was trying to get a picture up. So, that's what's going on with the gun rights. We're not asking anything extra. A gentleman came up and said, what right do we have to make this a sanctuary city, township, whatever you want? The state of New Jersey's created themselves as a sanctuary state for illegals and whatever the hell they want to do. We're going back with the law, we're staying with the Constitution. You're right, it doesn't say you can carry anything, whatever you want. Nobody's saying you can carry a bazooka around and take it into a theater with you. That's just, we have some common sense laws here. So those are things. There's a lot of stuff you have to go through in order to get a weapon. And the people that are creating most of the problems, are either having problems mentally, on drugs. If you want to go with the government taking care of everything, how about the 800,000 people that died in the last year or two from overdose on Oxycontin and drugs like that? How well is the government working for you? Those people that are getting the drugs, they're getting them by weeds that are not legal, and they're using weapons to take them from people, take your money, take your life. And then, that's what I have on that. Thank you very much. You've all been wonderful. Both sides out here have been very good. Thank you. There's a lot of emotion. This is important. We've been doing Post 11 out of Mount Holly has been doing the Kranz Memorial for longer than I've been alive. I'll just put it that way. We'd like to get a sign out here on 206 coming north with the road just going out here. I tell you what the name of it is, but I don't know. Instead, so you can just take, when you come up south, you can hang a right there instead of going all the way up to Kranz Boulevard, then coming all the way back down. And I think that would be nice. It'd also help your city get more people coming through. There's a really nice produce stand here. I know they have nice cinnamon apple donuts. And they have good produce. Thank you very much for your time.
Good evening, Joe Matarese, 401 Crickets Mill Road. I want to first say I'm in support of this. Thank you, Nancy. First things, we wouldn't be here if everybody listened to the words "shall not be infringed." Okay, a lot has changed over the last few decades. Even when I was a young kid growing up with guns, they were in my house, in my grandparents' house. You knew not to touch them. You knew right from wrong. Everybody knew right from wrong. They didn't have video games back when I was real little. The generations you see now are growing up with broken homes, broken families, drugs, pills, no respect for human life. Guns are a tool like anything else. Firearms, everything. It's a tool like anything else. It can take a life, it can save a life. It's about life saving. You have to respect everything, but I am in support of this Second Amendment resolution. Thank you.
Good evening. Joe Matarese, 329 Kranz Road. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Nancy. Like this gentleman said before, something happened to our society. 1971, 1972, I would clean my shotgun in auto shop class at Tabernacle Township High School. Well, we got done working on cars because we were going hunting the next day. Brought it right in school, carried right down the hallway, nobody would say a thing. The gun doesn't kill people. It's somebody in their heart and their mind what they want to do. And little by little, all of our, like Paul described, all the procedures you have to go through to be a legal, lawful gun owner. And little by little, every year it's more. Then we go from 15 rounds to 10. Next year it might go from 10 to 8. I mean, at some point it has to stop. But I'm in support of the resolution that Nancy did, and thank you all for being here. By the way, I've been here since 1977 in Tabernacle. So.
Why not? Connie or Constance Matarese, 329 Carranza Road. I didn't have a gun when I was growing up. I married a man who hunted his entire life. So shortly after we did get married, his uncles had a place, shooting reserve in somewhere in Delaware. So I had to get my gun, took my safety course here in Tabernacle, passed it, and I respected it. I mean, his dad, you know, my husband, everyone respected the firearms. We didn't keep anything loaded. You couldn't point it at anybody when you were walking in the fields. I mean, it was just how you were raised, and we were all good people. I mean, all the Matarese brothers, the uncles, they all hunted. No one shot anybody. It's the person again. It's a person. I've been in healthcare my entire career. You see what the kids are going through. What should be focused on is the vaping, you know, the oxycodone, and all of that stuff is what these kids through social media start to see and is out there. The incidents that they brought up this evening about some of the murders, they kept bringing up the same thing that only happened like a broad years ago. I mean, from 1980 to the present. It hasn't happened like every year. You don't hear about it here in Tabernacle. You hear the guns go on the Pine Belt. I hear it. It's a good sound because you know everybody there is enjoying themselves and they respect. I've been there myself, but I think that in support, as you can tell, thank you, Nancy, thank you very much. And it's true. When are my knives going to be coming to my house, take my knives? When is everything else that kills going to be removed from your life? So I guess they start out with the guns first, but thank you.
Any other public comment? Seeing no more, I'm going to close public comment. Can I have a motion to adopt resolution 2020-47 to authorize the continued appointment of special counsel and re-award the contract for 2020 professional services?
Make the motion.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Sudbury?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes. Resolution 2020-48, authorize the continued appointment of conflict counsel and the re-award of contract for the 2020 professional services. Could I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Sudbury?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes. Resolution 2020-49, authorize the refund of construction permit fee, block 802.04, lot 5. Could I have a motion, please?
Make the motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Roll call?
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Sudbury?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes. Resolution 2020-50, authorize the approval of change order number 1 for the 2018 road program, Arawak Paving Company Incorporated. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any questions or comments?
Could we, yes, Mr. Dozier, please?
Certainly, this is the final change order, basically just adjusting all the quantities for the 2000 road program as we close it out. The net is about a a little over $15,000 credit, so it's a reduction. The majority of that reduction is a result of the asphalt index, which went down, and we get a credit for it, but there was also a lot of adders and subtractions based on unit quantities and final quantities installed. So again, the net is a little over $15,000 reduction in the overall contract.
Thank you. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. McGinnis? Yes. Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Sudbury?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes. Resolution 2020-51 authorizes submission of the Tabernacle Municipal Alliance Grant for fiscal year 2021. Could I have a motion, please?
Make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. McGinnis? Yes. Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Sunbury?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes. Resolution 2020-52, approve resolution to declare the Township of Tabernacle as a Second Amendment lawful gun owner sanctuary township. Could I have a motion, please?
I make the motion.
I second it. You can prove it.
Yes, that's now. Questions, comments? You want to start, Joe?
Yeah, I just want to say, this committee, as well as the professionals that are on this committee, we all also hold up our right hand when we're elected, and we're sworn in when the mayor's sworn in as mayor, or a deputy mayor, or as a committee person, to uphold the Constitution of this state and of the United States. So, as far as this resolution, I just see it affirming our Second Amendment rights. And I do have an exception with the seventh whereas, with the unbiased research. I would suggest we just strike the word unbiased and just say research, because I believe research has shown that concealed carry of firearm reduces violent crime. I think it's just common sense.
Yeah, just like, Joe said, we hold our right hand up too. I totally 100% support our Constitution, right to bear arms. I have grown up in this town since a little boy from the start. I am centered 7 generations strong in this community. A blueberry cranberry farmer, the whole 9 yards. I started with a firearm in my hand. I'm a legal gun owner. I've been through every next check. You go to a place, go try to get your gun on a Sunday. Nope, can't get it because you got to go through another next check. Totally 100% understand there's got to be these checks, there's got to be that. But I will tell you, my sons are now carrying firearms on our farm and doing it the right way with hunting, shoot and trap, the whole kit and caboodle. And I've taught them the right way as I was taught from my ancestors. 7 generations of Moors. One of my family members were one of the co-founders of Moor Deer Club in this town, and I'm darn proud of it. Thank you.
So I swore and took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States, and I'll do everything in my power to do that. And that's why I brought this out here. And there for everybody's support, and thanks for coming out. And I'll do everything in my power for our country to stand up for our rights.
My dad was a hunter. From the time I was old enough to hold a gun, he took me out to the trap range up in one of the townships that's already listed as a quote sanctuary city. Gun safety was paramount. Anybody who's grown up with a parent that hunts, trap shoots, gun safety was always first and foremost. You learn to do it right and safely before you're ever allowed to even put a shell in that chamber, even at the range. I had to watch and learn. I attended the New Jersey Hunter Safety courses. I went through the whole 9 yards. Went out with my dad, got my first buck. I moved down here, wanted to change my address. It took me a year to get this card, okay? Out of the barracks. And the barracks was supportive. The guys in the barracks wanted me to have this address card. The state came back and said, well, you need to go through another background check, you need to be fingerprinted to change my address. And finally, one of the sergeants up here called up to Trenton and raised a ruckus, and they said, well, now he doesn't need a background check. Plus he's going to get it anytime he gets a permit to buy another gun. So, but it took almost a year to get that done. And, we're not changing state law by invoking this, but what we're doing is we're sending a message, especially to Trenton, that we support the Second Amendment.
message to Trenton has to be that the laws that they've passed, to a certain extent, are ludicrous. If I buy a BB gun and it has anything on the end of the barrel, the idiots up there that wrote these laws consider that to be a surge suppressor on an air rifle, and I can lose every license I have to earn my livelihood. These people are out of control, and yes, this is symbolic. We're not changing state laws, but we're sending a message that they need to get their act together and respect their rights.
Right. I listened to everything everybody said, and I can completely understand where everyone's coming from. I've known Emily for a very long time, and this is my second card of Emily's now, of her shooting. And I'm very proud of what she does. I think it's a really good thing. And also, I've listened to Mrs. Jones because I too, like Mrs. Jones, lived through the tragedy of those children dying. I watched those children grow up, and it's very sad. And it affected me very dearly for knowing those children for so long. So, as everyone has said, it really isn't the gun that kills the person. It's the person holding the gun that does it. And unfortunately, when people have guns that shouldn't have guns, they're usually not the ones that are going through the background checks. And they're not the ones that are waiting the 6 to 8 months to get their firearms card. So we all live in the United States of America, and we all have the same rights. And those who choose to exercise their rights are protected under the Constitution and the law. And I too agree with protecting our rights. And I know this does nothing for us, except it's a piece of paper that says this is how Tabernacle feels. But it's a start to maybe get people start looking, maybe we're going a little too far. So that's how I feel. So I'm going to ask Mr. Barton, you made the motion, or no, Sammy. Sammy made the motion for the resolution. He struck there was a motion to strike the word. Do you still hold your motion with that unbiased?
Does Mr. Moore want to make a motion to modify the resolution to include deleting the word unbiased from the 7th whereas?
That's fine.
So you're going to move in that regard? So moved. Is there a second?
Nancy, do you want to?
Go on, Nancy.
Nancy, second the original.
Sure, second.
All right.
This time, roll call.
Thank you. Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. McGinnis? Yes. Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Sunbury?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes. This time, can I have a motion to adopt the December 16, 2019 minutes? Close out an executive session minutes.
Second.
You were not, that's why I separated them out.
So I can make
No, somebody was on the team.
We're all in it together.
Roll call.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. McGinnis? Abstained. Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Sunbury? Mayor Brown?
Yes. Can I have a motion to adopt the January 2nd, 2020 reorganization meeting?
Second.
Roll call?
Yeah.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis? Yes. Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Josie Sunbury?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes. Can I have a motion to pay the bills? Got a motion?
Gotta have a motion.
Any questions about the bills? Including the two added? Including the two added? Solve them? Perfect. Questions? Roll call?
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. McGinnis? Yes. Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Sunbury?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes. At this time, I'm going to open the floor again for public comment. Again, you will still have 3 minutes. We do have a visual timer this time. You will see your time ticking down, that way you can get an idea where you are at time. Public comment, anyone? Mrs. Smith. It's getting hot in here. Not in this house.
We need to turn the air conditioner.
That's okay. That's okay. Cheryl Smith, 12 Hill Road, Tabernacle, however, it's the report on Tabernacle Fire, 76 Hawken Road. So the first item I wanted to talk about was our SAFER grant recruitment and retention. Just a follow-up. Chief Kennard and I had received a request to meet with Administrator Doug Kramer and Committeeman Moore in regards to the SAFER grant due to questions from the public. So I'm glad there's people out today. Mr. Kramer and Mr. Moore were directed by Mayor Brown to contact FEMA to ensure the grant was still active and issues on why we currently do not have in-house staff. So even though we had an email from FEMA which explained the situation, Mr. Kramer and Mr. Moore needed to call FEMA. FEMA confirmed the FEMA Go grant system is not fully functioning for financial reimbursement. Unfortunately, we do not have the funds to continue the duty staffing until the system is operational for financial reimbursement. We will continue the in-house duty staffing as soon as the system is fully set up, or when she spoke to Mr. Kramer, she had said if it comes to the end of March, that they would do another,
We would have another conference call.
we would have another conference call and the other options would be given. The second item, the last workshop, we ended with a 2018 audit, which we couldn't make comments, so I just wanted to follow up. So during our 2-hour, Chief Kennard and myself, 2 discussion meetings in 2019 with the subcommittee, we discussed the 2018 and the delay with now Mayor Brown and Committeeman Moore. We were informed to keep them updated, Brown, Moore, and financial Mr. Haynes. Update on the progress, which did occur. The 2018 audit is now finalized and was emailed the weekend of 2/15, and hard copies were delivered on Tuesday, 2/18. It was Tuesday because Monday was a holiday. So I just wanted to follow up on our items. Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Welcome back to the resolution. I know you've decided and it's now township official. I'm okay with that. I also want to make sure that everybody out here understands, I really don't have a problem with the Second Amendment. I believe the right to bear arms is valid. But I would ask them, what restraints would you put on it if I decided I wanted to buy a Thompson machine gun with a 100-round can?
You can't.
I know I can't.
It's already constrained.
I understand.
Can I shoot?
I understand that, but that's, I understand the creep. But there has to be a limit at some point, because there's a point where you're, for want of a better word, and most of the people in here now are not agree with me, but where you pass a threshold that is nothing that's going to create a problem. I have an FID. I've had it for a number of years. I had a permit for a handgun, but I traveled it with my grandfather's that I passed on through an FFL, which I was given through an FFL, which means I had a permit, and it didn't take me 6 damn months to get it. And I'm pretty sure I went through a background check too, even though I had security clearances with the government. My son was active duty military with JSON. He didn't seem to have a problem, admitted, not here, in North Carolina, and that's a different world. But he had a concealed carry, which he carries now, and he's not in the military. So I understand the Second Amendment, I support it, but I think there have to be limitations, just like you can't shout fire in a theater. There have to be reasonable, so whether or not these idiots in Trenton, and it's not just on this topic, but most topics, get it right or wrong. And I don't agree with it most of the time, but I can only solve that through the ballot box. Somebody who isn't as honest as I'm presuming most of these people are would be going up there with one of those 30-round mags and doing something stupid. So, believe it or not, I do support most of what you guys say, but I still have a amount of problem with what amounts to ownership. If you voted on it, I said, as you know, you guys voted on a number of things, so I've been against it. So, anyway, I'll take it. Thanks a lot. It's not always an easy decision, and you guys sometimes are put in a position where you can't win. Thanks for trying. And I didn't expect to win this one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stuart Brooks, Morris Meadow Road. Like Mr. Jones, I respect your decision. Like Mr. Jones, I pretty much agree with everything that everyone said. It wasn't the thought of the Second Amendment that causes me problems. It's when the committee parrots or cut and paste a resolution that's full of bad language, nonsense, things that make no sense, things that are just wrong. I see that, and I see you not doing your job. I'm not saying your heart's in the wrong place regarding the Second Amendment, but we look to you to do things for Tabernacle. There's a lot in that cut and paste resolution, just like the other cut and paste resolutions that you made, that just are either wrong or they don't apply. And frankly, I think that's an awful message to send. When I send a message, that's fine. But that's a sloppy message to send. The other question I have is, what's the status of getting a fire truck in the ESB? I think it's been 15 years. I know we've been working on it, getting an airline in, and that was the last hurdle.
Excuse me.
I think it's been about 15 years. I mean, if it's not built,
The building was built in 2012.
I don't want to argue with you, but I'd be happy to say that before the building was built, it was planned. And when it was planned, the idea was to put a fire engine in there. It's been an awfully long time, and that's a local issue that you guys should handle. It's your building, it's your fire truck. What's the status of it? Thank you.
Mrs. Brooks.
Matt Brooks, Morris Meadow Road. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but, at the last meeting when Committeewoman McGinnis brought up her handout, distributed the handout with a number of issues, you, Mayor Brown, said that these issues would be taken up at a workshop meeting, yet here we are, one of the issues that was on her handout, was included in the handout, setting aside what issue it is, shows up at the next meeting, the regular meeting. So how are people to understand what the rules are if the rules are always, they seem to be rules, they may be your preference, they may be your policy. In all due respect, it's hard for the public to know how to act or to make decisions about how to act when the rules, policies, preferences, whatever you want to call it, are constantly changing. It would really be helpful if you're going to say that this is a discussion or workshop, then hold it at workshop, don't spring it on people. All the people who came tonight, they were, I'm sure, quite able to come back at a later time during an actual workshop, because if you're not going to really distinguish between workshop and a regular meeting, then why bother to even carry on that pretense? That's one thing. The other thing that I'd like to know is this Arawak paving bill, and it would be great to hear from Mr. Fuzzy about this. If I understood you correctly, that they're getting a $15,000 credit back. What I'm concerned about is that when, and I wonder if this applies to Carranza Road, because when they did Carranza Road, they took their paving, I forget what the technical term is, sorry, I looked this stupid to give you a technical term, but they took the leftover paving and dumped it on people's properties who wanted to pave their driveway, okay? And I don't know if this $15 credit, and they were Chemung Peak residents who didn't pay a penny into that paving. So I would like to know is what this $15,000 credit is for, and what you will do about in the future, since you're probably going to hire Arawak again, to prevent them from taking the leftover paving material, the product, and giving it to people while we, the residents of Tabernacle, are giving them a credit back. So I'd like to hear a better explanation of the credit and how you're going to prevent Arawak from giving away what the product that residents have already paid for. And as for this Second Amendment issue, I just think there really is a lot of confusion about it, and it would be behoove you to clarify it. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Joe Bucks, Columbus. I don't know if you guys, if the mic's actually picking me up or not. I was going to give a speech earlier tonight. I want to thank all of you for voting to support the resolution, the Second Amendment resolution. You all made commentary tonight around what my main point was going to be. It was about your oath and the oath that you took. And I just wanted to take a minute to restate that oath and what that is. And that oath is, I do solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and to the governments established in the United States and in this state, under the authority of the people. And I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all these duties of the office according to the best of my ability, so help me God. My hope tonight was that you guys would reaffirm this, right? And that is something that you are here and you recognize that you serve your community. I had a little bit of doubt as the public comment went on tonight, but I was happy to see you all voted yes, and that you actually recognize your role. I hope that you will serve as a beacon for other councils and committees in Burlington County, and that they will also support and take the same sort of action.
No? Excuse me? No, he's fine.
And the same sort of action that you guys took tonight. So thank you very much.
Sheriff Court. I don't know, I've been to a lot of school board meetings lately. They happen very frequently, and so I can't make them all, but I don't know the update of this, but I'm wondering if the township has met with the school board. They had been asking.
Is that it? Well, we'll answer your questions.
Oh, okay.
When we're
Yeah,
done.
that's
Okay.
what I want to know.
All right.
I mean, if you haven't, when will you?
Okay. Maybe when we're all finished, I'll answer your question.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Mr. Brown, I just have a quick question. Do I have a spot on the report segment?
No, I'm sorry, did you want to speak tonight? We didn't. Can we put it on the next meeting? No, only because I've been asked in the past, and I'm only answering his question because he wants to do a report. In the past, if the report could be listed so people knew ahead of time for that report. For either organization.
I spoke to you last about last meeting about being on the agenda for tonight.
I'm sorry, I
I turned the
don't
report in
remember.
Friday, so we
Okay,
had, so you
yeah,
guys
so-
all got a copy of my report.
we do, thank you.
Well, you know, then I'll, just real quick, I'll use that as part of my public portion here. So, real quick, I submitted my report, because I had it last meeting, but I forgot. I done last meeting, but forgot about it. So just within my time here, I'll hit a couple things here. So again, I have a couple copies of the report, not many, or something screwed with our printer there.
Can I get your name for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry. Andy Kennard, 42 Pinecone Court, also the chief of Tabernacle Fire Company for this. A couple things just highlighting on our report. Again, have a list of calls we've had. Our community outreach is listed in there, broken down by type, incidents broken down by type, by month, apparatus response, the thousands of staff hours that the township, that the members put in, community relations and education, a whole section on that, and other just general services to the community that Tabernacle Fire has done, a list of our inspections that we do on a monthly, and just a highlighting of 2 pages of the trainings that we've done are listed there. And again, any questions any of you members have, I'd be glad to speak with you about them. Any explanations, please feel free to contact me. I also have a couple 2019 activities and some 2020 initiatives that I have listed there that we'll be reaching out for. Also, our budget proposal was submitted to Mr. Kramer. I think I got back to you on time. Close. Reasonably close. Close. Pretty close. I think I was away the weekend it was due and I forgot to do it beforehand. So the budget has been submitted. One of the big things about our budget and in anything, I know in the subcommittee discussions, you asked about what we want to see out of it. I don't know about any changes, but one thing I think we as a fire company, as a committee, really we need to have between us is a long-term plan of truck replacement plan. There's been it's been brought up numerous times about, and it's been on the budget. I don't even know how many years. The chief's car and whatever. But I'd like to have a plan written, a 20-year replacement plan for the vehicles in the fire company, whether it be reducing the fleet or whatever we got to do with that. But I'd like to have a plan written down. I can sit down and go over that with everyone. I would also like to have a replacement plan for established for our turnout gear, which is really important, and the care of that turnout gear, which involves purchasing a dryer for after we wash the gear, which is again will help extend the life of that gear. So there are a couple of things that were highlighted in the budget, the things I wanted to mention to be highlighted in the budget. All right, one of the things we're participating in one more grant. We're filling out another grant this year for equipment, and we're participating in a countywide grant for recruitment and retention. So, if there are any questions about that, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Chief.
Sean Colton, 438 Medford Lakes Road. You know, I really do want to commend you guys about the second amendment real quick, but I also want to talk about the fire company because as most people here know that I got up here several times talking about it, but they get up here tonight and they talk about all the great things they've done. One thing I want to talk about though is how the chief verbally attacked me on this stand here not all that long ago, just a couple months ago. And the committee acts very professional when they're up here, they really do. And if you were to berate a township resident like that on a public stage, what sort of repercussions would you face? And why shouldn't the fire chief be held to the same? He came up here tonight and he was very professional today because there were more people here. But the truth of it is I have seen how that fire company acts. I have seen how the disrespect to its members. I have seen all this, yet they still function and yet they function without accountability. They finally put their audit in. How late was it? How late was that report? I believe it was 7 or 8 months. So my question is to the committee is, I see you have their contract on for, you're going to talk about it in executive session. My question for you is, when are we going to have accountability of the money being transferred, of the taxpayer money being used in this town? Because these people, a lot of people don't come to these township meetings, they don't realize what's going on. unfortunately, everyone's got busy lives. I know it's hard for me to make it here tonight, but I made it just for the Second Amendment. But my question is, when will they be held accountable? And what kind of repercussions should be faced for coming out? Seriously, I never attacked that man on this stage, ever. And never verbally. And yet he came out after me like that. He went after my character. These people have tried to call me a thief. They've tried to do so many things to take down my character. They really have. A lot of people know me in this town. I believe I have a pretty good reputation. And if I don't have a good reputation, I would really like those people to sit down one-on-one with me and hear my side of it. That's my question for you guys. Have a good night.
Any other public comment? Ms. Jones?
Megan Jones, Police Report. A lot of people have been making comments about your oath to the Constitution, and I'm the daughter of a social studies teacher. So I grew up my childhood with many, many lectures about the Constitution, the Civil War, the Revolution, the Federalist Papers, and many other topics that I would love to say I've forgotten about, but I haven't. Steve Kramer would have loved my childhood. The Supreme Court is the ruler of whether or not something is constitutional. And when the Supreme Court of the United States in particular rules that something is constitutional, that is the law of the land. Your oath to the Constitution is thereby to that order. Now there is a way around it. There is the ability to amend the Constitution. All right, but as Chief Justice Marshall expressed, when expressing the challenge the Supreme Court faces in maintaining free government by noting, we must never forget that it is a Constitution we are expounding, intended to endure for ages to come, and consequently, to be adapted to the various crises of human affairs. Supreme Court rulings are final unless there is an amendment to the Constitution. Therefore, as public officials, when you swear to the Constitution of the United States and to the Constitution of New Jersey, I ask you also to remember that those rulings, whether we agree with them or not, are the law of the land. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Last call. Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. I'm going to answer a couple questions. Mr. Brooks, as far as the truck in the ESB, it's part of the contract negotiations. Brooks, the reason this resolution was on the agenda tonight was because Mrs. McGinnis requested that it be moved to the agenda for this evening. And it was advertised on the agenda, posted Friday. So it was posted on Friday on the internet. It was and the Arawak paving, if I'm not mistaken, that was a credit back to us.
It's a credit back to the township, and just for clarification, the township only pays for the amount of asphalt used on township roads. We don't pay for any leftover that might be in the truck, and what Arawak does with that is their business, but we only pay for the amount of asphalt that's actually installed as part of the contract.
Williams, the township has not met with the school. I have not been contacted to have a meeting arranged yet. I believe it's in the works, but it has not yet happened. So just so you know, that's the answer to your question, that the school has not reached out to the township.
Can I ask a follow-up, or is that for next?
You can see me afterward if you'd like.
Mrs. Brown? I've also been attending the meetings as I am able. So I did go to the last meeting where they're voting on the decision with the elementary school. And in support of the school district, I did send a letter to the governor this week stating my numerous objections to the detrimental effects of S2. So I am letting my feelings be known as a member of the township committee to the governor that I think he's made a mistake with this and needs to rebalance how the funds are being distributed.
Reports. Dan?
Bids for the road program, 2020 road program are being received this week, so we should have results available for your next meeting. If the committee wish to award that project. All goes well.
Is that it?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Haynes, anything?
I just want to report that at the next workshop, we will discuss the budget with the hope that we can, we'll discuss it then with the thoughts of introducing a budget at the regular March meeting.
Mr. Kramer?
A few weeks ago in the Berwyn County Times, the county put forward their county municipal park development grant programs that they had awarded for the 2019 budget. We were listed as requesting $25,000 and receiving $15,000. That was incorrect. We had requested $250,000. I spoke to the county freeholders office about this. It was a mistake on their part. They've agreed. In that article, they also said that anybody who was awarded in the 19 grant would be eligible for the 20 grant. They've agreed to allow us to roll our grant forward to the 20 grant. The $15,000 is still is available for ours, and we can combine them with the 20 grant to work on Prickett's Mill Park, refurbishment of the basketball courts, and the refurbishment of the walking path if full funding is provided. So that's where we stand with that.
Is that it?
That's it.
Thank you.
I'd just like to remind the committee that at the workshop, we'd like to talk about the age-restricted housing ordinance. It was in your packet. There's some suggested and requested changes, so we'll develop a discussion and see where the committee would like to go with that at the workshop. So I just want to make that reminder so we're ready to have a meaningful discussion. And that's all I have. I'll save the rest of my time for executive session.
Great, thank you. Mr. Sunbury?
Just wanted to let the committee know I did attend the ribbon cutting event for the opening of 3D PT this past Saturday. I am absolutely thrilled to see the success and the reception of one of the newest businesses in our 206 corridor. It's beautiful to see what was the old Alfor's Pharmacy, now and up and running, and literally packed with patients. So it's what we like to see is some economic growth and positive change, and a great resource for the residents. They don't have to drive over to Medford or Morristown. And Carly does a great job. Mike Shoulder testifies to that. So it was really nice to see that fresh new business opening up and bringing lots of traffic into that plaza. One of the things that I'd like to recommend, before I got on committee, I saw, when Joe Barton was mayor, the kind of the roundtable format that we had for the workshop meetings. And it was nice because you all sat at a table and it was literally a roll up your sleeves, let's talk about ideas. And if at all possible, I'd like to see us kind of return to that format. I think it's more collaborative. It's better for expressing ideas. I don't mean to be not in any way offensive, but the last workshop meeting seemed like more of a regular business meeting than a roll up your sleeves and let's get some work done type meeting. So I appreciate that, because I want more idea sharing, more innovative ideas to try and see what we can do to help grow economic development, but keep the nature of the town we love.
I agree with Bob about having a round table and have open discussion with the township committee and working things out for our town instead of having this kind of setup. I would like to thank everybody that came out tonight to support both ways. Everybody that came out to give their opinion. I'm glad that the amendment passed, the resolution passed, and for the support. And I love Tabernacle and we'll do my best to help the community and be here for them.
Thank you. Mr. Moore?
Dan, just checking in on Carranza, the grant, has everything been submitted again to reapply?
No, when the grants are, deadlines haven't been announced yet.
Okay. I'm just wondering just where we were.
As soon as they were, we'll bring it back to committee so you can.
So hopefully we can be on the top of the list. Yeah.
Hopefully.
That's all, Mayor.
Thank you. I too would like to thank everyone for comments tonight, and thank you, committee Councilwoman McGinnis for introducing Resolution 2020-52. Also, just for the public's knowledge, the agenda is set by the mayor. And while there's 5 of us on the committee, we all have an equal vote. And the mayor is kind of our executive director. But for order purposes, the mayor sets the agenda. And as a committee, we all have a right to request for agenda items to be placed on the agenda. And it's up to the mayor to decide whether it needs to go to a workshop or whether there's enough support. In this case, I can tell you there was a lot of communication. It was received by this committee for this, so I think it was right to post it when we did tonight. Also, for those that aren't aware, in Burlington County, there's an organization called the Burlington County 200 Club. Anybody know what it is? Okay, a few people, right? If you're police, fire, EMS, you probably know what Burlington County 200 Club is. There's 21 counties in the state of New Jersey, and all but maybe 2 counties have either a 200 Club or a Hero Scholarship Foundation. Basically what they do is it's called a 200 Club because the original members put up $200. There's a dues every year. It goes into a fund, and God forbid if a policeman, fireman, or EMS is killed in the line of duty, they pay death benefits to the survivors. This Friday is the Burlington County 200 Club dinner. So, and in the past, we have had Tabernacle TRS members receive scholarships. They also provide 5 scholarships, which will be awarded on Friday night. I've been on that board for over 20 years, and hopefully I'll see some of our fire department or rescue squad at the dinner on Friday night. On that, Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you. I also would like to thank everyone that came out tonight, and also thank all of our military personnel that came out and identified themselves, and those who did not. We appreciate all the service and everything you've done to protect our rights as United States citizens. So thank you for all of our veterans who have supported us, and we're happy to support you. And I say that on behalf of the committee. That's what I said. I'm certain everybody down here feels exactly the same way. So I just wanted to make sure we made that change. So at this time, I'm going to entertain a motion to go into executive session, resolution number CS02242020. Discussion of contract negotiation related to fire company, Tabernacle Fire Company number 1. Discussion of litigation matters related to Fran Brooks versus Tabernacle Township. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Yes. Roll call.
Mr. Gordon?
Yes.
Ms. McGinnis? Yes. Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Sunbury?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a short walk from here. We're back in public session. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
2 minutes.